Welcome, everybody out there, to a very fun, very kind of last-minute planned edition of ThePewterCast. This is our off-season tour. I am Brent Allen, your host. Tonight, we're going to be talking about all things free agency. The owners' meetings have happened. Free agency is kind of wound down to a close. There'll be some moves still left here and there, but there'll be some moves left. But we're really kind of focusing on the draft. So as we make this turn, it's time to just take a look and see, just look back and see what's happened here throughout free agency. Joining us tonight, as always, I have a very excited yet very distracted, long-lost friend, Ren Daxt. Ren, can you say hi?
Very distracted. There's only 51 guys left.
Only 51 guys. He's playing some knockoff version of Fortnite.
It is not a knockoff version. It is not a knockoff version. It's not my fault. You took too long. And anyway, hey, listeners, yeah, basically what's going on is, we've heard from everybody. We've heard from all the podcasts. We've heard from the Bucks. We know everyone sort of put out their feelings about this free agency class, how it's filled in, what's done for the roster. But, we haven't had a chance to hear from you guys. You can read Twitter and get a feel for what people think, but now it's your chance to call in and tell us what you think. And if there's a player that you didn't like, or if there's a couple players out there that you think they could still pick up, that's what this show's for. So, yeah, we're here to listen to what you guys have to say and what you think about the 2018 free agency class.
Yeah, and with that, I want to give everybody who is joining us live at mixler.com/ThePewterCast a shout out. The chat room is building. There are several people that are kind of mingling in there. You guys have a blast in the chat room. We'll try to check in with you guys as often as we can. But as Ren said, guys, tonight is really here. We're here to talk about you. We're here to get your thoughts and your feelings, your opinions on what's going on with free agency. And we've got the list of players here. I think it's fairly exhaustive. We might have missed one or two because there's actually been quite a lot. I'm looking at the list here, and it's probably between the existing players that we re-signed and the new guys that we brought in. I mean, we're probably 15 players deep, I think, on this thing.
Yeah, and that's not including options they picked up. Like they picked up Conti's option, Demir Dotson's option, Josh Robinson's option, or including the reserve future contracts. So there's about 7 or 8 guys they picked up. That kid from Germany's back.
Oh, is he?
So I
wonder
wonder
if the exemption again this year. Do we know?
That is the question, isn't it? But they signed for a reserve future contract, so I don't know if he automatically makes a team and will not count against the 10-man practice squad or not. But kudos for him. He's showed enough where they wanted to at least put him in training camp.
And bring him back, yeah. So that is certainly all different things we're going to be talking about tonight. So, Ren, you and I will kind of go through the list here as we open up the phone lines. Open phone lines are still here, are open now. The open phone lines, I say lines. We have one. It's an open phone line. So you guys call in. The number is 864-729-BUCKS. That's 864-729-2827. We will take your phone call about your thoughts on free agency. What are the good moves? Maybe what were some that you weren't really a fan of? What holes do we still have out there? How do you feel like these guys are going to impact the season? Now, with that, Ren, you and I don't think we talked about this before. Before we were actually on a different podcast we were guesting, and we kind of both have a similar feeling as far as how we're approaching this free agency period, at least as far as what it looks like heading in towards the season. Why don't you talk about, kind of your thoughts on that? Because I know we're very similar on that.
Well, it seemed that, I sent a tweet out a while ago. I sort of felt like you've seen this free agency class before, Bo Allen's the upgrade for Chris Baker. And Ryan is there to replace sort of the Ryan Russells and the
Silver Salingas.
As run stopper. And then when we got Vin Curry, they dumped Robert Ayers. They're almost, career-wise, they're pretty similar as stats, but of course Vin Curry's like 3 years younger. And then you heard about how they were in the race for running backs, but they just got outpriced, which was fine with me. And the only really thing that's left for me personally would be a safety. I'm looking for that to come in the draft. But if you take into account what the Bucs are going to spend, with their rookies in the draft, it leaves about like $4.5 million left.
Which is, you can sign somebody to a 1-year deal for $4.5 million. You can sign a couple people for $2 million.
Yeah, but you got to leave a little money for injuries, for people that get injured, players you got to pick up later in the season. Yeah. But also, it sounds like these safeties that aren't getting signed, like they're talking about like they're just being offered like veteran minimum contracts. So they just might have to take well below their pay grade just to get on a team. So that's what I'm hoping for, because there was that big talk, especially when free agency first started, that the Bucs have all this money and they're not doing anything. And now,
we really don't.
And now 3 weeks later, it's like there's no money left. Like there's none. It's all been taken up. So, but yeah, they got stronger in the trenches. We all knew it. That was something they wanted to do. Definitely big against the run. Of course, the signing of Jensen at the center and moving Alley is a big deal because it upgrades 2 positions. So I guess
now with that, you could actually say it upgrades 3 positions.
How so?
Well, so I know you and I are going to talk about this on a future episode. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to all the listeners out there. We're going to talk about on a future episode some of the things that we learned coming out of all the interviews and stuff from the owners' meetings. And one of the things that we learned is that Ali Marpet is actually being slotted in over on the left side as opposed to the right side. And they want to put him next to Donovan Smith, which makes all the sense in the world to me. Why
is that?
Why does it make all the sense in the world to me?
Yeah, you seem to be like really high on that move.
Yeah, I love that idea. This is speaking as a former tackle, and you can even hear it when we talk the guys talk about the cohesiveness that belongs on the line and what happens, how in step those guys have to be with each other as a unit. When you think of how close Ali and Donovan are personally, the idea and DeMar Dotson in an interview with I think it was Pewter Report earlier this offseason was talking about how Donovan was over there kind of left out to dry because of that whole stupid rotational thing between Kevin Pamphil and Evan Smith last season. Yeah, that didn't help Donovan.
Yeah, so, he was outspoken about that. He was like, he didn't like that. He didn't think that was a good idea. That is something.
So I think to put somebody as solid as Ali, somebody that is as close as Ali and Donovan are, they seem to kind of. I don't know them personally, but they've been roommates. They certainly with the radio show and stuff, you can just hear that there's a connection that those two guys have.
They room together on the road. They room together during training camp.
So I think that's going to help. It potentially could help Donovan Smith play even that much better, which I don't think Donovan Smith played horribly last year at all. I really don't. I know a lot of people do, but I think it's going to help him. So signing Jensen actually I think helps 3 different positions on our offensive line.
And so you're including Donovan Smith in that?
Yeah. Because of Ali, you bolster the guard position by moving Ali, but because Ali's going to be where he is, it's actually going to bolster Donovan Smith as well, all because we signed Jensen, which should make our friend Chris Fisher pretty happy because he was real high on the Jensen train.
Yeah, he was the sole reason he's here.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Hashtag idiot fans. So, well, guys, hey, listen, what do you think about all this? You guys can call in. Big chat room. Chat room's building, Ren. The number is 864-729-BUCKS, 864-729-2827. How are you guys feeling about our free agency period so far? So why don't we dive into the Ryan Jensen signing since we're kind of already talking about that, Ren? I don't have his numbers pulled up in front of me, so I don't know how deep this is going to be, and I apologize. I don't know exactly what the
I got it. I got it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, this year he's got a dead cap of $22 million, so that's what's guaranteed. This year's base salary is $2 million, but he's going to get a $10 million roster bonus. So this year his cap hit is $12 million.
Okay.
Overall, I have to click and load. overall, it's a deal that seems to be about $42 million. But this year, like I said, his cap hits 12, then it goes down actually. Next year, or excuse me, 19 it's 10 million, 20 it's 10 million, and 21 it's 10 million. And then, as always, with Mike Greenberg's contracts, you can get out of it with no dead cap money after 2 years.
Nice. So, what do you think about him as a player? I assume you have watched some of the film on him, as I have, that people have been putting out in some of the clips.
Yeah, just sort of like what everyone's saying. A nasty guy, had to work his way up from the bottom. He seems to get it. He's already sort of embraced Buccaneer Twitter, and so is his dad, and so is his brother.
Yeah.
So they seem to be just, I guess, the best way to put it, and and I know I've sort of mentioned his name already, would be like the anti-Chris Baker. Like, glad to be here, worked for everything. Not that Chris Baker didn't work for everything he's got, but it came a little harder to these guys, and it just seems like they sort of appreciate where they're at and, getting here and getting to this point. He seemed to be, by all intents and purposes, the best center on the market. Jason Light, what I like about Jason Light, they always identify their problems, and there seems to be not much ego in there.
Right.
Maybe you could have said last year where Chris Baker kept starting or getting more playing time than Clinton McDonald, and Clinton McDonald was obviously playing better than him. Maybe, you can maybe get that into it, but I think that's more Jay Hayes than anybody else. But they'll see their mistakes, and they're honest with themselves about where they need to improve. And I said at the end of last season, I said Jason Light always fixes the glaring need. It always gets fixed, and it sort of gets fixed over the top, where kind of like receiver last year seemed to be a glaring need, and then he goes and gets Deshaun, Jackson, and then he drafts Chris Godwin, and we still have Adam Humphrey. All of a sudden now we're like, we got one guy that can't get on the field who's pretty good.
Right.
So, I've always liked that about him. I find it, I don't know. I guess that's what I like him as far as a GM doing things like that. So yeah, there's nothing really bad you can say about the Chris Jensen signing. It puts Alley, a lot of people think, at a better place at guard, where he played better. Not that he did terrible at center, but then you bring in the top center that has got that nasty streak.
Right.
He's supposed to bring this attitude that J.R. Sweezy was supposed to bring when he got here. So
right. Now,
I'll see how it works out.
Now, with this, Red, actually, I think I want to go back and finish a statement that we'd started. I don't think we actually got to say. I want to put an asterisk kind of next to this entire episode that we're doing, because you and I have both kind of stated, and don't let me speak for you. So if you have something different or a little bit, of a caveat to this, go ahead and please feel free to mention that. But
yeah.
As far as judging or grading this particular free agency period, this particular free agency class, I am holding all judgment until probably about week 6 or so of the season, directly because of last year. We got Chris Baker last year, and everybody was out of their minds with how good of a signing that Chris Baker was. Like, Deshaun Jackson was amazing. Chris Baker was like the one that we didn't see, that everybody thought was going to be great, and we all see how that one turned out. And honestly, even with Deshaun Jackson, it was disappointing last year at best. Not that it was necessarily Deshaun's fault, but that particular signing didn't bear the fruit that we really wanted to see out of it. Same thing with T.J. Ward. Same thing with who else did we have last year that didn't really?
That's really about it.
That was really about it. Yeah.
That was like a big disappointment. I guess you could say Sweezy didn't play as well as you wanted.
Yeah,
him to.
Yeah. The Sweezy thing. Yeah.
But it was an upgrade from the year before because he was on the field.
Some might argue that was not an upgrade.
That's fair.
But so I just kind of want to put that little asterisk next to this whole thing of, I'm reserving judgment of how this actually is. Like, I'm not getting overexcited. I'm not getting down on any of these guys. Nick Folk, they're telling us in the chat room. Remember how that one turned out as well as this free agent signing last year. Which actually, sure. I guess I should add the kicker to our list of guys to talk about today.
Oh yeah.
But
whatever his name is.
Yeah, but with Ryan Jensen, I was pretty personally outspoken. A lot of people were calling for Allie to be moved back to guard, and I personally was never in that camp. I wasn't
either. I just wanted them to leave him alone.
Yeah. They moved him to center. He did fine at center. They see him long term at center. Just let him play center. Unless they can get somebody who is a significant upgrade like Ryan Jensen. I didn't see anybody in the draft that was a big upgrade over center for Allie, so I wasn't looking for that. Well, they went out and got Ryan Jensen. So you know what? I'm fine with moving Allie back to guard now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And what you were saying, I totally agree. Like, we like the signings. That doesn't mean that these guys are going to pan out, or I'm not endorsing them as like, this is it. These are the guys, and everything's going to be great now. Because we've seen plenty of times, especially through free agency. Jason's Light record's not that good, but for what we needed and what we needed fixed, I think Jason Light gets an A-. He hasn't got a running back so far. A cornerback would have been nice, but the money just wasn't there. And
you could argue he did get a cornerback.
That's true. Yeah,
and then we brought back Brent Grimes. So. Hey, we got a phone call. Let's see who we got here tonight. You are on with Brent and Ren. Who do we got here talking to us tonight?
Hey, guys. This is Mike from Tampa, a.k.a. TV Bucks fan on Twitter. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Mike. Doing good. How about yourself, man?
Pretty good. Looking forward to the draft. And, yeah, just wanted to call in and give my 2 cents on this free agency class.
Mike, is this your first time calling into the show?
Ooh, no, I've called.
You called him before.
A while back. It's been a while.
Okay, cool. Just checking. I think I saw somewhere somebody. I thought it was you. Maybe said you were the first time, maybe in the chat room or something. Is that what I'm thinking?
No, I wasn't active in the chat room.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, man, what's on your mind?
For starters, I think that all Bucks fans got a lesson in how quickly cap room can disappear.
Yeah.
But I think it was extremely necessary. We were in a spot where defensive line was our biggest problem, and we basically got an entire new starting cast next to Gerald, which was exactly what we needed. So I'm very happy with that. Obviously,
Mike,
Ryan Jensen.
Mike, on that, before you move on from that, one of the things that I was thinking towards that I love about the idea that we've completely revamped this D-line is that we don't have to focus on the D-line in the draft now.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? Like we have flexibility.
Well, I guess we kind of did do it to a degree with spending a day 2 pick to acquire JPP. But obviously, I don't think in the third round you could get a pass rusher to the effectiveness of JPP, especially not in his first couple of years.
Sure.
But that does put us into a spot in the draft where I think that every Bucks fan is in agreement that we need to spend one of these first 2 picks on a running back, hopefully. And other than that, best player available, whether it's Quentin Nelson or a defensive back of some kind. So I'm just excited. I think that we really addressed some needs, but we had to pay for it.
Yeah, we did. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I noticed just out of curiosity, you didn't mention defensive end. Of course, the person there being Bradley Chubb. Is that you just don't think that there's any way he's going to be available by the time we get down there, or are you not necessarily interested in a guy like Chubb now, given that we have JPP and Noah Spence on the back, coming back and all that?
I would absolutely take him if he was there because I believe if he slipped to us, he's obviously the best player available. But I also feel the same way about Saquon Barkley or Quentin Nelson. Regardless, we all know there's going to be probably 3 quarterbacks that go before us. And other than that, they're just going to start chipping away at those best players. So I think if any one of those 3 guys are there, they're the best available at 7.
So you place the top 3 as Chubb, Nelson, and Barkley then?
At least as my 3 guys that I would like.
That seems to be the consensus with a lot of people out there. I am not super into into all the different mock drafts and everything to be able to say that. I tend to just wait and see who we get, and then I talk about them a lot. But that does definitely seem to be the consensus. I'll tell you something though. For me, and Ren, I was going to say this kind of before. Mike called in here, is with the signing of Ryan Jensen, to me, that makes our number 7 pick Quentin Nelson if he's available. And because I think, but if you get Quentin Nelson, you are going to that O-line will become nearly unstoppable, I would think. And that's too good of a thing to pass up. Even if Bradley Chubb's available, I would pass on Bradley Chubb if Quentin Nelson was still there. And that's just me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nelson's my favorite pick in this draft. That doesn't mean we're going to get him or they're going to pass up Chubb. But I'm with Mike. I don't think Chubb's going to be there. It's darn near impossible unless something comes out. He gets a Tunsil Instagram right before the draft with him. With a gas mask smoking pot, he might fall some spaces. But he's head and shoulders what everyone's saying, the best defensive edge rusher in the draft, and so. Those guys are coveted. So even with a black mark like that, he probably still wouldn't fall to 7. So,
one quick note about Quentin Nelson. So he played left guard at Notre Dame.
I can't.
If we pick him, are we putting him at right guard?
That's why I'm not really.
You talking about Nelson?
Oh
yes.
Update on PUBG. I came in second place. Guy shot me in the back.
All right.
Just died. All right. So what
Ren is fully engaged now. Completely cut off Mike there. Mike, your question was if we draft Nelson, do we think he goes to right guard? My answer is yes.
Right, because even though he played left guard at Notre Dame, Cutter's kind of come out and flat out said that Alley's playing next to Donovan. So are we switching them both up? Would he backtrack on that? I'm just curious. Obviously, this is hypothetical only if we draft Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, I think they're leaving Alley. I think the plan is for them to leave Alley. I think they're leaving Alley over there a lot because of his relationship with Donovan. And Cutter certainly didn't. That did not seem to be a flexible thing in Cutter's mind. Of course, if they get out there and they prove them wrong in camp, and Nelson should be at left and Alley should be at right, then they'll switch them. But I think the plan would be to draft him and put him in at the right guard spot. By the way, if they draft him. As soon as I think this might be on the horizon anyway. I think as soon as Sweezy is cleared to play, quote unquote healthy, we will not see him in a Buccaneer uniform after that point.
I do agree with that, and that would be the right move in my opinion.
Yeah, and that'll free up. Ren, you're my cap guy here. What's that free up if we get rid of Sweezy? I know we've got a little bit of dead money, but it's not as much as we'd be paying him.
It would free up $6.5 million, and that would put.
That's more than I thought.
Dead cap.
Yeah, so that's that I'm okay with that. Put $6.5 million. Let's use that for somebody else. So, all right, Mike, you got anything else for us before we let you go here, man?
Just hoping that kicker that we clearly are signing and not putting into a competition turns out well as well.
It's certainly what it seems like. We'll talk about that kicker here in just a few minutes. Thanks so much, Mike.
See you, Mike. Sorry to cut you off.
See you, buddy. So
I can't hear the caller.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, good to know.
It was okay though because it was getting pretty tense. There's only like 5 of us left. The circle was pretty small in PUBG, so I was okay sitting in the sidelines for that one.
All right. Well, technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Hopefully,
it's fine. You just have to carry it.
You should be able to get them now. All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for calling in, and sorry, Ren, that you couldn't hear that. But, well, he brought it up, so let's talk about the kicker now, Ren. Seems like there's not going to be a real competition for this guy. They seem pretty settled with this guy. I was looking back at his numbers and his stats. I don't see anything special about this guy. He seems average, run of the mill.
The year that the Cardinals went to the NFC Championship game against the Panthers. The Panthers blew him out. He had a really good year. He was over 90% field goal wise. Surprise! Your kicker has a great year. Your team has a good year. But he seems to be, if you compare the stats between him and Murray, they kind of seem to be the same guy, but he has the leg to get it to the end zone. Now, there was this narrative out there that Pat Murray got hurt, and that's why his kicks weren't getting to the end zone. But, Dirk Cutter has made it clear a couple of times, not necessarily calling him out by name, but saying, we like to kick the ball in the end zone, and Pat Murray is just that's not his strong suit. So that's what they did. They went and found a guy that could put the ball in the end zone for him, relatively on the cheap, but can kick in the 90th percentile. After that 90th percentile, he had a pretty bad year. It was something around closer to 80%, and that got him ran out of town in Arizona. And then he went to the Jets and kicked in those terrible conditions and put it back up to 85. So I think it was 87%. So like you said, there's nothing super special about him, except he can have one of those great years.
Mm-hmm.
He was perfect on extra points last year, which is something because now those aren't gimmies, as we all know.
Right.
And I think they like his leg to be able to put it in the end zone and make the team, make the opponent take it at the 25-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they went with that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Pat Murray, salute to him. I don't know. I liked Pat Murray. I really did. And I might have just more liked him as a person.
Right.
But certainly if you had to think what his biggest downfall was at the end of last year, whether it was from injury or just not a strong enough leg, not being able to blast it, towards the back of the end zone like he needed to. So, we'll see. But I mean, again, and this is one of those things that I'm going to have to wait till week 6. If Catanzaro, I think is how you say his name.
Yeah.
If he can kick it and he can put the ball through the uprights, I'm fine. If not, then, we'll have that talk later and certainly come training camp. I don't know that we'll even be able to use that to judge it a whole lot because, we saw how that turned out last year. Aguayo during training camp looked pretty good in practice.
Yeah, neither of them really kicked the lights out though. Like Kim or Falk. It seemed like if one missed, the other missed. No one really had a dominant day. Mm-hmm. They're pretty equal, and some of their misses were bad. I mean, like Sir Shanks a lot. Like it was not even close, and that's on the on the regular size goalpost, not the skinny post.
Right.
So but then Roberto got in the preseason games, and I think he missed his first kick, and I was like, okay, that's it. It's like you just when the lights are on, you just for some reason
you shut down.
You just you can't do it. So we went with Falk, and then the curse of Tampa Bay kickers got him, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see where he comes in with all of that. All right. Moving on, let's talk about I think one of the guys who, from what I understand, has kind of become a fan favorite as well as a favorite of the media and even from what I understand, just around the building there at $1, Bo Allen.
Right.
He will be our new nose tackle right there with replacing Chris Baker.
Yeah. Basically, it's a Chris Baker upgrade is what we're doing with him.
Right.
Really stout against the run.
And apparently he's into cosplay.
Oh, I didn't hear this. What's this story?
Yeah, wasn't this the guy? Or was it No, yeah, it was this guy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Got his girlfriend because he was wearing an elephant costume.
Sorry, yeah, that's not really cosplay, but okay, gotcha. When someone says cosplay to me, I'm thinking like video game characters, famous movie icons. Yeah, I'm not thinking like a dude in a elephant suit.
Dude, he was that elephant from Bram Lois and Sharon's elephant show. Do you remember that? Anyone?
Yeah,
Anyone out there? Am I alone? Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Skidamarinky dinky dink. Suddenly I feel like Mark Cook right now, making a reference that nobody actually knows or believes. I promise you. Sharon, Lois, and Bram. Google it. Their elephant show. Watch the YouTube video of the opening. It's stellar.
Is it a kid show?
Yes, it was a kid show. It's horrible.
Oh, all right.
But Bo Allen coming in. Again, kind of another guy sort of like that Ryan Jensen type deal, and we'll go ahead and throw Minch Unrein into this as well. Guys that either came in really late in the draft or came in undrafted. They've got that chip on their shoulder. Jason Light talked about that in another interview, and we'll talk about that again later. But, he's a guy that I think everything you said about Ryan Jensen, we can kind of apply to this guy. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. He appreciates where he is. He knows what he has to do to work. I think I think he was the one who was saying, "Let's get to work. I'm here. Let's get to work. Let's."
I'm ready to get sweaty. He said it in his presser.
Right.
I'm ready to get sweaty. I'm like, all right. I like that.
So Bo Allen.
Plus apparently he had a little bit to do with getting Vinny Curry here. He went to Jason Light and was like, "Hey, I could talk to Vinny a little bit." So he helped. He already was pro team. Like trying to make the team better, and he hasn't even strapped on a helmet yet.
Right. So now Vin Curry, remind me, he plays defensive.
He plays defensive end.
Right.
And the 17 defensive end the Eagles had this year.
Right. So him and Vin Curry, Bill Allen and Vin Curry, both coming off of a Super Bowl win, which is always nice to get some guys that have some rings in the building. People can say what they want about Robert Ayers, but I liked his mindset and a little bit of the influence that he did bring and was able to exert while he was here.
Yeah, that kind of went away the second year, though.
It did, yeah. I mean, by the second game of the second year, because he did. He told, I remember that, he told Jameis, he said they were in the shower. It was after the Bears game. He said, "Man, you got to put your foot on their throat and stomp when you're up that high." Like, that's that old attitude that I was looking for from Robert Ayers. I just don't know that we saw it after that week,
Yeah, we definitely didn't hear it, and that might be just because the media had already, run its course with Robert Ayers, and if he doesn't make himself available, like open locker room, a lot of guys know when it is, so they're not in there on purpose for that, time. And then if you do get him, after a game, they don't have to talk to you; they can be like, later next time, and so that might be sort of the reason why you felt that. Robert Ayers' attitude went away because that was a storyline going into the season a couple years ago, and then like I said, it just sort of seemed to disappear.
So media, we blame you. I'm pointing my finger. No,
I just
should have gotten him. Should have gotten to him anyway.
Just a theory. What else? But what else are you going to say? They already told the story.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, look, Robert Ayers still angry.
Jenna Lane, when Robert left, I think Jenna had tweeted something to that effect of, it was refreshing to be around a guy who was himself pissed off and all, or something like that. But Bo Allen, let's get back to talking about these guys. Bo Allen comes in. Vin Curry. Let's talk about Vin Curry. Ren, a lot of people seem to be very excited for Vin Curry. I have often said I am a fan of the Buccaneers, not other teams. So this was I've heard the name, but it's still a relatively new name to me. So sell me on Vin Curry. Sell me like they sold Jason Light on Vin Curry.
Oh, I don't think you had to sell Vin Curry to Jason Light. Well, part of it, let's face it, this, we'll get to JPP in a minute, I'm sure. But and Vin Curry, you heard Dirk Cutter say that, he might have resigned this offseason, that they're not going to get like a top end pass rusher, and they're going to have to make do with what they had, which would have been Robert Ayers and Noah Spence, I'm assuming. But the Eagles couldn't pay him, so they cut him. They tried to rework the deal. He was a second rounder some years ago, but the Eagles drafted him, so he's been there the whole time. Hasn't been a disappointment. His sack numbers aren't huge. I think he got like 6 last year or 6.5, but he said in his presser, sort of his greeting presser to the Tampa Bay media and Tampa Bay fans is, he didn't get a lot of opportunities. He wasn't down there in third down on obvious passing situations a lot. So I think what they got with Vin Curry was, one, they hadn't gotten anybody and they've been priced out, and then he shakes loose. So they wanted to upgrade there. They felt that Vin Curry was an upgrade from Robert Ayers, so they went and got him. And it's almost like this is sort of okay, now we're going to let you do what you want to do. Let's see what you can do. Mm-hmm. But so he seems excited to be here. Once again, I'm not going to come out and say, Vin Curry, oh my God, if he had the chance, he'd get 10 sacks, he'd get 12 sacks, and just watch and wait. It's just he's an athletic dude. He knows the game. He knows his position. He plays with a lot of power and strength, but he also has inside-outside moves. So he's refining the technician part of his game, and I think he's going to be a great fit. But like I said, if he gets 6 sacks, I'll be fine. If he gets 8, I'll be happy. If he gets 10, of course, if he gets 10, well then
he's going in the Ring of Honor. All right, who do we got on the line with us here? You are on with Brent and Ren for the InstantCast, talking free agency.
First time caller, Craig. How you doing?
Never called before, Craig. I got a feeling that you live. Let me put the Karnak thing on Las Vegas. How about it?
Oh, man, I can't disguise it. Oh, sorry.
What's going on with you,
How you guys
Craig?
doing?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good. Hey, dude, with all these pickups right now, they have pretty much said, listen, if Noah Spence comes back, great. If not, it seems like whatever they get from him is a bonus. Do you think that with all the defensive line pickup? And I still say they're not done in the draft late in the rounds, stacking up on some ins as well, too, because that shoulder injury for his position, it's great that he's having a good offseason workout, bulking up, but when the pads go on, that's an injury that could come right back up again as well, too. Do you think with these pickups that they've kind of said, hey, listen, if Noah comes back, it's a bonus, but they're maybe not count on it?
Yeah, I think that's the smart thing for them to do. I think they're expecting him to come back, and they're excited to see what he can do. But I think that they have kind of, I guess, resigned themselves to not depending on it. I think kind of as you're saying there, Craig.
Yeah. And one thing I still think they're missing is secondary help. I know that they got Grimes back, and I know VH3. Hopefully the hammy holds up as well too. And I think the whole thing with the Instagram, whatever, that to me is a non-story. I'd rather see him do that than take prescription painkillers that these NFL teams prescribe. That's for another topic for another day. But I still say, and listen, they haven't got anybody yet. But I still that's one position. If there's someone that someone really wants at 7, I say you trade back and maybe take a corner, maybe mid to late first, and stack up some extra picks, and you could still get that running back early second because you do have. I think what Chubb is coming in. I think to visit $1 right now. I read that as well too. But what do you guys think about? Obviously, the secondary still needs help. If Ryan Smith is out there starting at corner, even as the nickel corner, I'm a little worried. For next year as well too. I know the secondary can also get help if we get more sacks as well too, but we don't have those guarantees yet from those guys because they still got to get to the quarterback as well too, and especially in our division, I still think you need a ton of depth on the cornerbacks because you're going to go against 3 potentially 2 Hall of Famers and maybe a borderline one as well too. So you're going to need that as well too. So my thing is, maybe there wasn't someone in free agency, but there's someone in the draft that someone really wants. I'm all for it. Trade back and stack up some more picks. What do you guys think about that? Because I think later in the draft and later first round, I think there's better value at some of the corners. I just don't think there's someone that's glaring at 7 that you have to pick.
Right.
And everybody's either a safety or a free safety, strong safety. There's not a true shutdown corner that you want to pick that early right now.
So just so I can recap, your question is because of the needs that we have in the secondary, that we don't have to pick at 7. How do we feel about a trade down scenario? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because I think you're going to have to pull secondary early, unless Barkley's there.
Yeah,
and maybe someone wants to trade up for Barkley as well too. If the kid from Notre Dame there, those are 2 that you have to pick. But even Barkley, that early as a running back, you never know. I know the guy's got all the talent in the world, but everybody can get a good running back in the second round as well too. But I still say that secondary for that division that they're in, you need some real more. You need another shutdown corner because you got Grimes for one more year, and you're still going to be looking for that next corner the following year as well too.
Yeah. So, Ren, what do you think about that, man? What do you think about the trade down scenario there?
I'm all for the trade down scenario. I mean, if Chubb's there or Nelson's there, don't trade down. Those are the guys that we desperately need and you have under control, especially Chubb, someone you could have under control. He's not necessarily going to help a lot this year, but with the addition of Curry and the return of Spence and the addition of JPP, he doesn't have to be. Nelson, we've talked about. After that, I would love to trade down. And you could trade down and you could get a guard and another edge rusher. The kid from Boston College, Harold Landry, is, from what I hear, he's just as good as Chubb as far as rushing the passer. He's just not good against the run, and that sort of puts Chubb against head and shoulders. He's a complete 3-down defensive lineman. And like you said, if you trade down a little bit, then, it makes a lot more sense of getting a Derwin James or pick up a Mika Fitzpatrick or a Denzel Ward from Ohio State. And there's a couple other corners in there as well that I wouldn't mind getting in the 12 to 15 area. And if you get down and if you move down, you're probably going to have, of course, you'll probably get the third back, or you'll hopefully get like a first and a second. And then maybe the third or future draft picks. So, everyone's dream scenario seems to be trade down with Buffalo and get their 2 first, get the 12 and the 22, which, I'd be great with that. You could go down there and get your cornerback and then wait till 22 and maybe, get like a Will Hernandez from UTEP, that big nasty tackle that's coming out of there. So, it's – personally, for me, it's almost Nelson or trade down. But if Chubb's there, I understand if you don't, because and then obviously it's like trade down with Buffalo, because then you get 2 first-round picks and you can fill 2 needs. But I even if we stay at 7 and this just all drafts at one point, just like you just crumple up your piece of paper and throw it out the window, it goes south, and it's going to go south quick this year because somebody's going to move up for a quarterback. I don't mind taking a defensive back at 7. Honestly, I would rather have it be a cornerback than be a safety. Like, I don't care how good Derwin James and Fitzpatrick are. Like, I would rather have the top corner and sort of shore that up going into the future than it's like Nelson, Chubb, or a corner for me at 7.
Yeah, I agree. This team needs a corner. There's no way you can win the South with their secondary right now. You just can't. It's just impossible because you're playing 6 times against, in a sense, the top 2 of the top 5 best in the league, and one that, when he's on, but he still gives you that other look as well too. At Cam, what he does, maybe he's not the most accurate thrower, but if you don't have a good secondary and the good pass rush, you can't beat Drew. You can't beat Matty Ice as well too. You need that as well too. So I hope they do that as well too. Let me bring out one thing, and I think some guys mentioned it at the owners' meeting, but it's kind of still lingering out there. I don't think anything's going to happen. A couple people said it, pretty prominently that they're not worried about it, but the Jameis Winston investigation thing, the NFL has still not said a word on it. I still say I don't like the way the league treats him a little bit. I think I don't like it. I didn't like the newspaper coverage on the car accident as well too, but that's still lingering out there as well too. And I wonder if that plays at all into their draft. Not that they'll draft a quarterback, but they've got to have maybe a second or a third option in case he's suspended for a game.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, you're talking about the backup the backup quarterback in case Jameis is suspended.
Yeah, I know Fitzy's back, which is good.
Right, and Griffin's going to be back.
Yeah, and so, but I just think it's a dark cloud still hanging over the off season right now. I just wish one way or another they would know what's going to happen. I would hope by the draft that the NFL would make a ruling, but if this lingers into May and June, that's not fair to this organization as well too.
I agree. Now, we do know, and we heard recently that Jameis has turned over some stuff to the league. So hopefully that means that there's progress happening. But who knows how long that's going to take. Various sources out there are saying that it should be wrapped up before the draft. Hopefully that's actually going to happen. But, I mean, who knows? You know, who knows? And you know, I what do you think about Light and Cutter? You know, kind of they keep getting asked about this, and their whole responses is, yeah, what are you gonna do? We'll just keep going, and we'll figure it out when we get there. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because we don't know. Like, you know, I mean, I don't really know what else Buck fans would want them to do, but maybe show a little more passion, I guess. But you know, what are your thoughts as far as how those guys are handling it?
I guess they're doing what they're supposed to do. I just wish they would. I agree, show a little more support for Jameis as well too, and maybe they're doing it from behind, which is fine. Maybe they don't want to show all their cards in front of the press as well too. You know, as long as they're telling him, maybe not in front of it, they're being just kind of PC in front of the press. But at least you got to hope behind closed doors they're saying, hey, listen, we got your back 110%. You know, maybe they even start saying, hey, listen, after this off season, we're going to get you done to an extension, and you know, you're going to be a Buck for life. Well, whatever it is. So hopefully they're doing that, but maybe they can't say or do much in front of the app, because it is an open investigation by the NFL. But you just got to hope that he's getting some sort of support. You know, there's nothing out there that says he's not, but that's what you're hoping for behind closed doors. The Glazers, Dirk, Jason, they all have his back, saying, hey, listen, we're no matter what happens, we got you.
Right. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It's, again, I say, there's a big piece of me that just says, what are we going to do? You know, they got to, you know, they just got to keep pressing on. Like, I don't know. I have an old saying that I use of, until you have a signed contract in your hand or a definite thing in your hand, you just got to keep pressing on like everything's going to be the same, you know, in a year from now. It's, you know, there's just nothing else that you'll freeze if you don't do that. So, all right, Craig, man. Well, thanks so much for your call tonight, buddy.
You got it, man. Keep up the good work, guys. Love the show.
Talk to you later, buddy.
Later, Craig.
Woo. All right. Well, guys, phone line is open if you guys want to call in. We would love to take your call. The phone number is 864-729-BUCKS, 864-729-2827. You guys call in. We will talk to you as we kind of turn the corner on this show. So we've talked about Ryan Jensen. We've talked a little bit about Bo Allen, Vin Curry, a little bit about the kicker. Mitch Unrein. This was a guy that also like the team seems very high on this guy. Right. I don't know anything about him outside of the fact that his stats don't jump off the page at you. And, now I've not seen any tape of him. So what do you got?
He's not a sack guy either. You know, both Bo Allen and Mitch Unrein were brought in to stop the run. That's what they were brought in to do. You know, I have sort of this love-hate relationship with PFF, Pro Football Focus, is when they get something that I don't like about a player that I like, and they put up the stat, I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about. But then when they put up a stat that's, you know, shows something very good or pro a player that I like, that I'm like, oh, see, I told you, everybody, look at PFF. So, but PFF had these guys, Bo Allen 1 and Mitch Unrein 3, as the best run stoppers, like percentage-wise in the league. So, you know, I think it was another good get. It's sort of he's I guess the one guy's been sort of left out in the cold. I haven't seen anything about him. You know, no interview, not even a Casey blurb. You know, it seems that he's like the only. You know, we got a Ryan Jensen presser, we got a Vin Curry presser, we got a JPP presser, we got a Bo Allen presser, we even got, you know, the kicker, Cannoli, Catanzaro. We even got Catanzaro presser, but we didn't get this guy. So we don't really know a lot about his personality and stuff. But you know, for what he's here for, what he's what he's here to do, it seems that he does it well. And once again, he's one of those guys that wasn't drafted high. You know, had to work for what he's got, and you know he's got 7 years in the NFL, and he's hung around, and now he's been rewarded with, you know, not a outrageous contract. You know, it's a $3 million. You know, this year that's his cap hit. The next year, no cap hit whatsoever, and it goes up to $375, and then it's $375 in 2020. I mean, extremely affordable. You know, cap hit with this guy, especially if he's here to do go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then if he doesn't work out, then, you know,
Yeah,
we can cut him with no penalty, I guess.
Yeah, so he'll be on the, and hopefully he does work out because he's a really cheap option at that point. Everyone complains about Golston's $6.5 million and why is he on the team and this, that, and the other thing. Well, now his contract's fully guaranteed for this year, so he's not going anywhere. So you can sort of jump off that train if you want to. But if you go look at Will Golston's contract, and I'm going to double check this, I just want to get the numbers exactly right. Next year, it's cut in half. Like he makes, it drops down to it's cut directly in half. It's cut down to $3.75 million next year. Now it's 6.5. Then in 2020 it goes up $1 million, and then in 2021 it goes up only $750,000. So
only $750,000.
Well, I mean, for NFL money,
when you're talking about a $300 million salary cap, So if Buckner can get Golston back on track like he was, that got the play that got him to this second contract, yes, he was disappointing last year, but everybody on the defensive line was disappointing last year. Right.
Gerald McCoy came out of the gate like a monster, and by week 9, it was just kind of like back to, okay, we know he's good, but where are the plays that, shows me that he's good? So
yeah, I'll tell you something about this Unrein, and it has nothing to do with the guy as much as the whole feeling of it. 4 years ago, we had a draft class come in. Only one person made it to the end of their 4-year contract that they got with that big draft class, and he was the most underrated person on that draft class. He was not draft class, free agent class is what I mean. He was the quietest signing that we had, and his name was Clinton McDonald. And, of his big group, he was the only one who made it all the way through his contract that he signed in that free agent deal. And turns out he was the best player, but he was he was the quietest one. And so it makes me wonder with this Mitch Unrein guy, who really very much feels like the quietest signing that we have of this class of free agents that we've brought in. I'm interested. I don't want to say I'm excited, but I'm interested to see what happens and how we feel about him in 3 years at the end of his contract.
I think he'll stick around for all 3 just because it is so team friendly.
Right.
I mean, $3 million is nothing in the NFL as far as, a starting defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, all right. Well, I think we've kind of the new guys anyway that we're bringing in, I think we've kind of saved the best for last. It was announced not too long ago. This one really wasn't even a free agent signing, Ren. This was a big trade. Jason Pierre-Paul coming in from the Giants. We traded a third-round pick, and we got a higher 4th-round pick.
Right. Like 6 spots.
Right. So, so we get him plus a higher 4th-round pick in exchange for our 3rd-round pick. This was a good deal, I believe. Jason Pierre-Paul has not. He has been a dominant force in the NFL in his time playing.
Yes.
He has done very well. And I said not too long ago, listen, if you were to take your 3rd rounder, and basically that's what I've just said. We just used our 3rd round draft to get this guy, because you're not going to find a guy in the 3rd round that is going to be guaranteed as prolific as a player as JPP is going to be, who's going to come in with, I think we said this is his 9th season going into the league, with 8 years experience. You're not going to find a guy with 8 years experience in the draft, like by nature of the draft, right?
I have to agree with that.
Right. I mean, that's, general logic. News alert for anyone out there who didn't have that figured out. But anyway, the question in my mind is, because the word that we heard from the GM up in New York, Gettleman?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Gettleman. He said the Bucs offered us a deal we just couldn't refuse. For a 3rd, why would they give up this guy for, to me, what really seems like a relatively low pick for a guy of this caliber? Because this seemed, to me, it feels like we got a steal.
Yeah, well, the Giants there's a couple things with this. One, the Giants, didn't want his salary on the books because it's his cap hit this year is 12.5, and next year it's 14.5, and then after that it's 12.5 again. That's a big salary.
Mm-hmm. And
Plus,
I'm sorry, Ren. Just for the record, that means because we traded for him, we absorb those numbers now, right? Like that's not reworked. Yeah. We actually absorb those numbers now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are now our numbers, and that's sort of the only downfall to this, because everything you said is true about the third round pick. Mm-hmm. The only thing that stinks about this trade in the third round pick is having to absorb that salary, because the third round pick, like you said, is under control for 4 years. When we were talking about Clinton McDonald, or excuse me, no, I don't know what we're talking about, but a third round pick is a 4-year deal. So you have, a third round player who Jason Light's been, pretty good in the third round. That's probably going to contribute some way, and you have him under control for 4 years at a very team friendly salary. And that's the only downfall with this JPP pick. Now, having said that, I haven't heard anyone say that it's a bad idea. Right. The only thing they bring up is the salary after that. But if you go and you look at the salary, once again, after this year, you could cut him and there's no dead cap space. Now, I have total trust in Jason Light and Mike Greenberg about the cap. They've always kept it healthy. They've always done the right thing. They've never put us in a position where we can't sign the players we want to because we just don't have the money. We didn't have to let go of a Vin Curry. We didn't have to trade a Jason Pierre-Paul so far. So, to get under to make the cap get to where we want to be. So I'm sure they looked at those numbers and they knew what they were going to do. Is a rework in coming up after this year? Possibly. But what I can promise you is that JGPP's salary, though it seems extravagant, will not handcuff the Bucs in any way going forward.
That's good news. And hopefully JPP put some handcuffs on some opposing quarterbacks here in the NFC South here over the next couple of years, which would be very, very nice to see. All right. Well, with that, Ren, while we're talking about the salary cap, because I find this whole situation very interesting. We were talking earlier about how we had this big salary cap and now it's pretty much gone. Like we're done, right? Yeah. One of the things we had talked about, I think, on a different show, maybe even on this show, it might have been when we were with Gene over at Buck What You Heard. But one of the reports that we heard, I think it was from Pewter Report, was saying how the Bucs were trying to earmark like about $30 million to re-sign Donovan and Quan and Alley.
Right.
Well, they were trying to earmark that money from this year to go ahead and re-sign them. Well, that whole plan seems out the window now at this point.
Right. Which is a little scary because now they're going to have to make – like they could have thrown money at them this year and like, hey, you sign it now, you get your big deal. But now it looks like the way the cap is, what's left, which is about $12 million. But like I said before, it's going to cost about $8 million to sign your rookies from the draft. So really, that leaves you about $4.5 million. Mm-hmm. Now all these guys are going to make a choice in between free agency or sign the contract.
Right.
But from all intents and purposes, from what I see in here, or I've seen and heard, I should say. That they all like it here. They're not complaining, and they want to build a winner here. The only one, and out of the three that I can see that would be kind of like, no, I'm going to test the market. Kind of no matter what you put out in front of them, would be Donovan Smith, and it's two reasons. One, he doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't care, but he's more of a little lighthearted. I don't think football means him as much as it means like Daquan Alexander. Not that he doesn't work hard, not that he doesn't try, not that he doesn't love the game. I just don't think in his sort of vision of his whole entire life that football, I feel Donovan Smith is always looking forward. And being a left tackle, he could make a lot of money, especially after a good year this year. He can make a ton of money out there.
Even
so that's the scary part.
Yeah,
it's going to be like, here, sign this now or wait a couple of months and go to free agency instead of like sign this now or wait 15 months and go to free agency.
Because let's say he just has another mediocre year. Like I would say last year he had an above mediocre year. Like it wasn't great, it wasn't excellent. It wasn't just mediocre though. Like it was in the top half of that. Is kind of about how I'd say he had last year.
Yeah, you could put him comfortably, I think, somewhere between the 12 and 18 range of left tackles in the league. Somewhere in there.
And when you're in that range, you can go get a job. You'll get a job in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, when you come available, for sure.
Yeah. I know that he tends to be one of the whipping boys on this team. But, he's going to be playing in the NFL. It's not, he's trash and we're going to cut him and no team's going to pick him up, as seems like we might have seen with some of the free agents that we have let walk and not re-signed, and no one else has re-signed them yet. Which is a little surprising to me, to be honest with you. But, that's not going to be Donovan's case. So that's an interesting thought, Ren. I would not have picked Donovan to be out of the three, the one to test the market. Quan, I think, is who I would pick, just because he seems to have the personality that would, want to test and see what's out there. I feel like Allie's, Allie might too, because Allie's gets a lot of attention, but
I don't think Allie wants to move.
It does seem like
that's
he's
sort of like the vibe I get from him.
Yeah,
like, what?
It's too big of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not. I'm good. I'll stay right here. I'll sign that contract for $15 million a year instead of yours for $16.
Yeah,
just to not move.
Good.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, where was I going with all this when I started talking about this? We were talking about the salary cap and having to re-sign those guys. So, ostensibly we will be looking at re-signing those guys. Listen, I don't think for any of those three guys that there's any way that unless they just insist on testing the free market, that Jason Light's going to put a good contract in front of those three guys.
For sure. Yeah,
he'll do for them what he did with Mike Evans and Cam Brate. Now, we've got just a couple more minutes, Ren. So let's just quickly talk about some of the guys that we brought back, because they are technically still free agent signings. Mike Evans we brought back. Adam Humphries we are bringing back unless somebody offers him a better, picks up the tender offer we put on him. Cam Brate was another kind of a little bit of a surprise signing that we got to come back. Certainly, Adarius Glanton's another fun one. Peyton Barber's back in the mix. Adam Geddes, a no-name from last year, probably going to be a camp body. I don't know if I mentioned Evan Smith, Keith Tandy. Cam Lynch is going to be back. Will Clark will be back, who was a defensive enforce last year with a big whopping 2 sacks, which I don't know if that made him the leading sacker on the team, but it was close.
It did for defensive ends.
And Brent Grimes will be back, of course. Ryan Fitzpatrick, filling in that spot. Craig Vegas talked about that. How about this as a free agent? Peyton Barber, yeah. So add these guys to our free agency class, Ren. How's that shape out for you?
Well, I mean, you can't really – and you said technically, but you can't add Cam Brate and Mike Evans because they were still under contract. Okay. They just extended, I guess, was them. Mm-hmm. But, I thought the Evan Smith signing was a big move because that – with the Sweezy still hurt, not really sure where he's going to be. And I agree with you that the Bucs might just be wait till he's healthy before they actually cut him. Because if they cut him now, they have to give him an injury settlement.
Right.
If they wait till he's healthy, then they don't have to pay him.
Right.
But yeah, the Evan Smith addressed the guard position where we knew we had a hole, and then a couple days later, 3 days later, they probably went and added Geddes. So are these the answer to the right guard position? No, but I wouldn't be
Would you take Evan Smith playing right guard over J.R. Sweezy?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I wouldn't be freaking out, like, oh my God, the right guard position, we're going to be terrible. It's like, I wouldn't. Now, is he a starting right guard in the NFL? Probably not. But he's got tons of starts under his belt. He's a veteran. he's not going to blow an assignment. Put it that way.
Right.
He might get out athleted. That's not a word. But yeah, so you talked a little about it earlier. All these signings are putting the Bucks and Jason Light into position not to be pigeonholed in the draft. Mm-hmm. One thing I forgot to mention about trading down was a running back. I would love to trade down from 7 and grab like a Geis and a corner,
right?
Or Sony Michel in a corner.
Yeah.
I might even like that better than getting Quentin Nelson at guard.
Oof.
That's
yeah.
But getting a Geis or a Michel and getting like a top 1-2 corner, like that's a big deal to me. But that's pretty much a toss up. But these guys, like you said, like Tandy brought back depth. Will Clark, you brought back depth. Peyton Barber, we had to re-sign him. And then we mentioned how they picked up contracts on Dot, Conti, and Robinson. They're just, they're filling out the roster, and it can't be overlooked enough about how these smaller signings are helping the Bucks. Like once again, not being pigeonholed and moving the needle towards best player available,
right,
and away from need.
Right. Flexibility
comes up.
I mean, we're getting flexibility is really what we're adding. The Evan Smith thing, I found it very curious, the timing of that, when you compare that to when Kevin Pamphile was signed by the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I think Tennessee made the decision for them.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they kind of sat back and said, okay, we need either Kevin or Evan back. I almost feel like they wanted Kevin, but Kevin was kind of testing his free agent market out there.
Right.
I mean, you could say, some would say that the Bucks did him dirty last year, Kevin Pamphile. I mean,
you could. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was weird, and the explanation just doesn't really. It holds water, but you're still kind of like, I don't really like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, DeMar Dotson came out and himself talked about how dumb it was, and that's my word. I don't think he hadn't necessarily used that word, but he said it didn't work. He said it wasn't good. It certainly wasn't good for Donovan. It just wasn't. He didn't know what was going on with that. But anyway.
Do you think at one point that like Donovan and Allie, since Allie was on the other side of him, should have went to Warhop or at least go to Warhop, maybe even go to Coach Cutter, and they said like, look, we like Evan better than Kevin, or we like Kevin better than Evan. Can you please just leave that person in there? It makes my job easier. Do you think at one point they should have just went to one of the coaches and said, quit rotating, either pick one, here's my suggestion?
Yes, I do. I think they should have. And what I don't know is I don't know if this coaching staff allows for that kind of stuff to be said.
Or listen. Oh, they can say it.
I don't know. I mean,
listening.
Yeah,
it's the listening part,
right? And but that's what I mean. They may not have cultivated an atmosphere where Donovan or Allie would have been allowed / felt safe to go say something like that. Because and I point to things like players saying, "Hey, listen, I just do what I'm told. Hey, I'm not the coach. I just do what the coaches tell me." Like, no, you need that kind of input back from your players. You have to have that kind of an atmosphere around an organization, and but they all love George Warhop and they just kind of trust him. So at least that's what we keep hearing. All right. Well, Ren, that is certainly going to put us up over our hour for tonight. So I want to say thank you to everybody who has joined us at Mixlr. Man, there was a live conversation going on over in the chat room. So you guys were awesome. I was trying to follow it as best I could. But you guys were awesome. It's kind of the show within the show as we talk about, Ren. So thank you to everybody over there. Ren, as we're signing off here, I'll give you a chance for any final thoughts, and then where can people out there find you on the internet?
I would like to thank everyone in the chat room that congratulated me on my second place finish from PUBG. It was Brent kept asking me questions and distracting me. I'm a little surprised I lasted that long, but I had two pretty good guns and two good scopes. So I wish I could have caught that. Should have fired up Twitch. Could have been twitching and potting at the same time. But seriously, Easiest way to find me on Twitter, at Rendax, REN_DAXT. If you want to talk to me, I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football, but you can DM me as well if there's something you want to throw out there on the Twitter's verse. Talking about a certain player, maybe you think it's a silly question, or it's just or maybe it's an extra long question. You have a bunch of questions. I'll always respond to you and answer you back. So feel free to hit me up.
And if you guys want to find me, I am personally at Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. And you can get in touch with the show on Twitter at ThePewterCast or on Facebook.com/ThePewterCast, or shoot us an email to ThePewterCast@gmail.com. We will try to get to those on our next pre-recorded show that we do. So you guys can do that. We will definitely do that. We'd love to hear your thoughts on anything we've talked about tonight or anything just going on with the state of the Bucs. So once again, I want to say thanks to everybody over there for joining us in the Mixler chat room, and for everyone who's downloading the show. You guys, hey, listen, the off season is one of those weird times where I love our fandom, Ren, because not for the PewterCast, I'm talking about for Bucs as a whole, because I hear this across all the different podcasts. Numbers stay up during the summer.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And do well during the summer, and in a lot of cases continue to grow. You would think that this is when everything sinks off. And, if we were doing this full time like some of the other guys out there, we might do this more than once every couple of weeks. So through the off season. But you guys are awesome. For everyone who downloads the show on iTunes or Podcast Addict, Podbean, Stitcher, Jabbercast actually would be the name of it. Overcast, any of the podcatchers out there. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And stay tuned in. We've got a new show coming out. We'll put this one out. This will go this week. We got a new show coming out. It might actually double up this week, Ren. Not quite sure how that's going to work, but we'll record a new one.
I wouldn't mind doubling up. We're just waiting for something. Something's coming out Monday that we want to talk about, and we're going to put it all together.
Yep.
And sort of a breakdown of what everybody said. It's going to be a fun show.
It'll be a fun show. So we'll do that. And then we've still got another show that's kind of in the can, Ren. We just got to get it out there. Kind of waiting, I think, for the big lull of talking about our one day at $1 Place, taking people on a tour through that. So that's a fun episode. And then just off-season stuff. OTA start up here soon, and we'll be taking a look and seeing what all that has going on. So, guys, listen. Once again, thank you so much. This has been an outro that's lasted now 3 minutes. So, with that, we'll cut this out as we always do by saying, "Go Bucks!"
Happy Easter, everybody! Bok bok. That's a Cadbury bunny.